Good evening, dear viewers. Welcome back to Review Program. This episode theme of discussion is European Union and Central Asia relations, prospect for mutual beneficial cooperation, and implementation of EU strategy towards Central Asia. An event that has captured the world's gaze is that Uzbekistan will host the first formal summit of European Union and Central Asia already this month in April. This meeting will be not just a historic moment but also a landmark for the future development of relations between the regions. About the significance of this event, about the overall relations of regions, we'll discuss in this episode. Relations between Central Asia and European Union continues to progress, offering the prospects of new horizons for cooperation and mutual understanding. Central Asia, a region with rich natural resources and strategic geopolitical location, is the focus of increased attention from European Union. The first formal summit of EU Central Asia is to be held in Uzbekistan in April 2024. The event is certainly expected to bring new ways of cooperation and opportunities for both regions. On January 29, 2024, at the Investment Forum in Brussels, the Vice President of European Commission, Margarita Skinas, announced the holding of the first formal summit of EU and Central Asian countries in Uzbekistan. The European Union is ready to offer the countries of Central Asia a partnership to turn global challenges into shared opportunities, said EU High Representative of Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Joseph Borrell. The summit is not just a high-level meeting, it's a symbol of new era in relations between European Union and Central Asia. For Central Asian countries, it is an opportunity to attract European technology and investment, and for EU to open up the new markets and strengthen its influence in a strategically important region. Uzbekistan plays a key role in Central Asia as a strategic partner of European Union. The success of this summit could determine the future direction of cooperation, creating new opportunities for both regions. This event is a step toward a deep and comprehensive partnership that includes economic development, stability and security. It is also worth noting that cooperation between European Union and Uzbekistan covers many aspects, from economic and political issues to security and environmental issues. The volume of trade between Uzbekistan and European Union increased by 36% last year compared to the 2022 and made up $4.8 billion. The export of products from Uzbekistan to Eurozone increased by 1.5 times. In the field of energy, 28 public-private partnerships have been concluded for the construction of large-scale solar and wind power plants, with a total capacity of 11.5 gigawatts. Another 16 projects of 12.8 gigawatts are under development and negotiation. The European side provides advisory support to the development and implementation of green energy projects. The EU also supports Uzbekistan's reforms aimed at improving human rights, developing civil society, and strengthening the rule of law. How have EU-Central Asia relations evolved over the 33 years since independence? What are the specific aspects, characteristics of EU strategy in Central Asia? And why is EU-Central Asia Summit held in Uzbekistan? We will learn from our guest today, politologist, Doctor of Political Sciences, Farhod Tolipov. Our today's interview with a political scientist and expert in field of modern geopolitics and regional integration in Central Asia, Professor Farhod Tolipov. Good evening,
Hello.
Professor Tolipov. Thank you for dedicating your time to us.
Thank you for inviting.
So let's start our interview. My first question is just about the relations between Central Asian countries and European Union. How have EU and Central Asian countries' relations evolved over the 33 years since independence of the countries?
Yeah, that's really a very interesting question because it's been already 1/3 of the century, we may say, 33 years, 1/3 of the century. So that's why it's quite impressive period of time, and we have enough experience to judge about how it was evolving. I mean, how the cooperation between Central Asia and European Union was evolving. Actually, we have to say, first of all, that European Union and individually each European country within the European Union recognize the independence and sovereignty of Central Asian countries from the beginning. From the onset of independence, from the early 1990s. And since then, the overall cooperation between two regions, I call this between two regions, European Union region and Central Asia region, was just progressing. For example, in 1996, European Union adopted a special attitude towards Central Asia, which is reflected in a special document which is called Partnership and Cooperation Agreement, PCA, Partnership and Cooperation Agreement. This kind of agreements were signed with each Central Asian country. This is very interesting. Uzbekistan signed this PCA agreement yet in 1996. And then subsequently, some other Central Asian countries also were involved in this practice. So it means that European Union considered Central Asia since early 1990s as important region, important for Central Asia, strategically important for Central Asia. Later, in 2007, to be brief, in 2007, for the first time, European Union adopted a special document which is called Central Asia Strategy. Look how it sounds. It's really quite symptomatic and ambitious because it is titled Central Asia Strategy of the European Union. It is a comprehensive document which highlighted the overall intention of the European Union in Central Asia. First of all, how they evaluate the region as a strategically important place for European Union and how they envisage future cooperation in which spheres. But to be objective, first strategy, actually two documents were adopted called strategy. So 2007 strategy, although it was important and was the first ambitious document of this kind, I wouldn't say it was absolutely successful and achieved all declared goals. Because that time, in EU approach to Central Asia, rather bilateral approach dominated than regional. In Europe, consideration of Central Asia as a single region, as an integrated region, didn't prevail. So that's why they cooperated individually with Kazakhstan within a specific set of programs, with Uzbekistan separately, and regional approach didn't dominate. Later, a different understanding of the region came to Europe, and in 2019, they adopted a second Central Asia strategy, where the idea of regionalism and regional integration really dominates and pervades the entire structure of the strategy. The overall period, 33 years of cooperation between European Union and Central Asia, was really impressive and progressive. The idea of Central Asia initially was based on very special concept of diversification of trade and energy supply for Europe from other parts of the world by circumventing Russian territory. So the idea of diversification, circumventing Russian territory, was present just in the beginning of independence period, 1990s. So in search for such alternative routes of cooperation in trade and energy supply, they rediscovered, let's say, Central Asia. And even among many Europeans, think tanks, analytical centers, the old-fashioned concept of Great Silk Road was revitalized. They remembered this romantic period in the history that Central Asia was at the very core, at the epicenter of Silk Road. So it was very great and important segment connecting East and West. So it was history. But in new time, new era, beginning from 1990s, they revitalized this memory of Great Silk Road. And it became a kind of a mantra in the overall rhetoric of Europeans when they discuss Central Asia, that this was once upon a time a center of Great Silk Road. And today, this connection, this role of Central Asia, connecting East and West, let's say China to the East and Europe to the West, can be refreshed and revitalized. That was the renewed vision or rediscovery, let's say, of Central Asia.
What about Central Asian countries? How it's going, this uniting, unification?
The Central Asian integration process, which was declared in 1991, proceeded through several stages. it wasn't an easy process. So we have 33 years of independence. It wasn't an easy and smooth process. It was full of ups and downs, forward and backward movements, crises and successes. So the same was specific to European Union as well. They also didn't proceed towards unification smoothly, without crisis, without problems. So that's why it was typical to them as well. So that's why it's so normal, so dialectical, so natural that Central Asians also cooperated and moved towards integration with facing numerous problems. But nevertheless, of course, it's a very special and separate topic to discuss perspectives and periods and stages of Central Asian integration. But nevertheless, it was declared from the first day of independence. It is also very illustrative of the context and reality in Central Asia, and still on the agenda of Central Asian countries, that they proclaim integration project. They are moving towards full integration in some future. Now, currently, among experts, scholars dealing with Central Asian regionalism, the idea is widely debated whether one certain model of regionalism can be inculcated, copied in Central Asian context. For instance, some people say, people like me, for example, that European integration model is the best for taking lesson and replicating in Central Asian context. The other, let's say, school of thinking argues that no, not EU, but rather ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations model is more relevant for Central Asia. So still the third school of thought believes that Eurasian model, like CIS, Commonwealth of Independent States, or Eurasian Economic Union model is more relevant, and so on and so on. There is still another approach that none of these above-mentioned models are okay for Central Asia, but rather Central Asians themselves will invent, let's say, design their own region, their own regional model, which is unique, which would be unique, and so on and so on. So I am more in favor of European model, European Union, and now everywhere, in my lectures, in my writings, I insist that we in Central Asia can learn much from European case.
You mentioned about the EU strategy. So what are the main challenges in implementation of EU strategy for Central Asia?
One of the challenges which Central Asia-EU cooperation can face in the future, in the nearest future, is how Central Asians themselves, 5 Central Asian countries, look or see European Union. We know that European Union is so optimistic, so enthusiastic in terms of helping, promoting good ideas, best ideas of democracy, human rights, rule of law, cooperation in the sphere of investments, climate change, everything. So on the part of European Union, everything, especially if you look at the content of the strategy, everything looks so optimistic and positive. So European Union is fully ready to assist Central Asia. But the question is how Central Asians respond to this endeavor from European Union. Because we remember that in the past, Central Asian countries themselves were not always, they didn't approach the European Union strategy from common positions. Sometimes we saw different policies of Central Asians themselves towards Europe, towards European Union, and not equally accepted the messages sent by European Union. So that's why in many cases, European Union strategy towards Central Asia took the form of bilateral cooperation, like EU-Kazakhstan, EU-Uzbekistan, EU-Tajikistan cooperation on the bilateral level. This time, second strategy emphasizes the idea of region-to-region cooperation. So now much will depend on how Central Asians themselves will respond to this message from European Union, and will themselves act and cooperate with European Union based on regional approach, without suspicions, without hesitating, and combining their efforts on the Central Asian regional level, combining their efforts in cooperation with the European Union. So much will depend on whether Central Asians, in brief, whether Central Asians themselves will position themselves as a region. There is Central Asia in the world. There are 5 states in Central Asia. They combine their efforts, they're united, and are ready to cooperate with the European Union, not as single separate countries, but as a region. Much will depend on this.
So let's move to the summit itself. So we know that this month is already, Uzbekistan is expecting holding the first summit of Central Asian and EU summit in Samarkand. So why is the EU Central Asia Summit held in Uzbekistan? What's its significance, and when it will be held?
I think that Uzbekistan was chosen by European Union is not by surprise. Although I wouldn't overemphasize this choice, I wouldn't be surprised if the place would be Astana or somewhere else in Central Asia. But probably one of the explanations for Uzbekistan is that it is one form of acknowledgement of growing importance of Uzbekistan in the region. Uzbekistan was recognized even long before as a key country in Central Asia, as a locomotive, as the driver of regionalism and regional integration in Central Asia. And the recent tendencies in the overall relationships among Central Asian countries also confirms this thesis that Uzbekistan is a key country and a driver. I mean, since 2018, at the initiative of Uzbekistan, the so-called consultative meetings of 5 Central Asian presidents are held, and we already had 5 meetings of presidents under this umbrella of consultative meetings, and we are expecting the 6th one, which will be this year. And moreover, from maybe the 6th consultative meeting, we will observe the new stage that this process will shift from consultative format to more institutionalized format, just like European Union. So we expect this achievement this year, maybe, from the 6th consultative meeting. But anyway, Uzbekistan will, I hope, will demonstrate a new wave, maybe new page in the history of EU and Central Asia. I expect that if not a new, the 3rd strategy will be adopted, but at least some improvements to the 2nd European Union strategy on Central Asia could be discussed during the meeting in Uzbekistan. Of course, they will discuss the new progress, new perspectives, especially given the very special context which now we observe throughout several years until today. I mean, the so-called C5+1 formats. There are no less than 10 C5+ formats in the world already. American C5+1, Russian, Chinese, Japanese, Indian, and European Union format. So one thing is that European Union now will demonstrate in Uzbekistan very soon its own C5+1. C5 means 5 Central Asian countries, and 1 is the European Union. But in parallel to European C5+1, some individual European countries themselves develop similar format. So this proliferation, let's say, of C5+1s itself illustrative, because it illustrates how Central Asia occupies a visible niche in the world. So many countries, so looking at Central Asia with special intention reflected in the C5+1 idea. Okay, so European Union also develops its own C5+1, reflected in Central Asia strategy, as such in the document, and at the same time in the upcoming event of meeting of high-ranking officials of European Union with 5 Central Asian presidents in Uzbekistan.
Let's go back to the C5+1 format. So every European country has its own C5+1 format, and European Union also wants to, in the summit, develop this format. So which of the formats will be dominated, and how this format's gonna collaborate with each other?
I think they are mutually complementary. German or British or in general European Union formats are all mutually complementary, because all European countries, taken individually or jointly as a European Union, are very much interested in cooperation with Central Asian countries and contributing to regionalism of Central Asia. In Central Asia, they are fully supportive. Individual countries and European Union as such, fully supportive of regionalism and regional integration in Central Asia. This is very important. That's why I say I wouldn't prefer or make a choice between these 3 or more C5+1s in Europe, but they are mutually strengthening, mutually contributing to each other, mutually complementary with each other. I think upcoming events in Uzbekistan will also illustrate how European Union sees the future of Central Asia, European Union cooperation, and taking into account contributions from each European country. By the way, the 2019 strategy itself has a chapter which emphasizes the importance of harmonizing, let's say, of European countries' individual approaches to Central Asia with the EU strategy, that they should go in unison with each other. Germany or France or Italy or Spain or British, their strategy should not contradict each other. They should go hand in hand with the EU strategy. Only then it will be efficient.
I guess that's the end of our questions and interviews. Thank you very much for dedicating your time.
All the best. Thank you.
Partnership between the regions has every chance of becoming a model for effective inter-regional cooperation in a world where global challenges require joint efforts. The first formal summit between the countries of European Union and Central Asia and Uzbekistan opens new page in a dialogue between the East and West. This event promises to be one of the most significant in the history of relations between the regions, and we will learn about the outcomes of the summit very soon. Stay with us and see you in the next episodes.